young men feel the need to go about their business carrying a gun because they're worried about coming across their rivals. And so you have this shoot or be shot mentality amongst gang members now.
Last week they carried out a blitz on one street gang, resulting in 75 arrests and the seizure of 78 guns.
Well, 80 people have been arrested and nearly 24 firearms seized. That's the latest tally following multiple overnight raids in communities across the GTA.
In the depths of Canada, a land often overshadowed by stereotypes and misconceptions, there exists a clandestine world hidden beneath the veneer of polite society. While Toronto may be renowned for its megastar collaborations and its charismatic figures, it's imperative to grasp that the streets of this city are ice cold, where danger looms in every corner. The drill scene in Canada finds itself nestled geographically closer to the United States, a proximity that grants its inhabitants access to a sinister arsenal of high-powered firearms. Within Canada's 13 provinces, Ontario emerges, with its capital city, Toronto, forming the epicenter. The vast urban sprawl surrounding Toronto is known as the Greater Toronto Area, or GTA, a moniker that could easily be mistaken for a tale straight from the virtual realm of Los Santos. Toronto's urban landscape is divided into 6 administrative districts: Etobicoke, Scarborough, Old Toronto, East York, York, and North York, the latter serving as the backdrop for the gripping narratives that will unfold. But in the intricate tapestry of Toronto's underworld, a dichotomy prevails, an invisible line that divides the city's up-top and down-bottom factions, each with their own stories to tell. Here we embark on a journey to unravel the stories of some of Toronto's most iconic rappers, from PRESSA to Top 5, Smoke Dogg to HOUDINI, and in doing so we will also confront the harrowing tales of the brutal street violence that shaped their lives. In the vibrant neighborhoods of Toronto, where the rhythm of life is defined by a unique blend of music and the streets, we find ourselves immersed in the cultural phenomenon known as drill. One of the most renowned hotspots for this subculture is the Northern District, affectionately called Up Top. Within this sprawling urban landscape, you'll discover neighborhoods like Jane and Finch, marked by the intersecting Jane Street and Finch Avenue, as well as the neighboring Driftwood area, named after Driftwood Avenue.
If I ask someone to think about a dangerous neighborhood in Toronto, they'd usually think of a place like Jane and Finch.
Unfortunately, Up Top has earned a reputation for its rough edges, frequently making headlines for its high rate of firearm-related incidents, often topping the charts among the city's police divisions. The intricate web of local shootings can be attributed in part to street gangs such as the Driftwood Crips, a group that faced significant law enforcement scrutiny. In 2017, a massive operation known as Project Chronic led to over 100 arrests and the levying of more than 600 charges against alleged members of the Driftwood Crips.
Hells Angels members and their associates from across Canada began the day in Newmarket, where breakfast was held at Leslie Street and Davis Drive under the watchful eye of York Regional Police.
Court documents even hinted at their involvement in large-scale drug distribution, including dealings with notorious Hells Angels biker gangs. It's a complex world where the line between law and lawlessness blurs. However, amid the challenges and dangers, it's not just about those who enforce the code of the streets. It's about the artists, the musicians who use their craft to tell their stories and navigate the chaos.
I wanted to touch on some of the Somali rappers that have come out in the past decade. Why do you think there's so many Somali artists that are finding success in this moment in the industry?
One of the pioneers of Toronto's drill music scene, Robin Banks, emerged from this very backdrop. His music, influenced by Chicago drill sounds, began to resonate as early as 2014, with breakout tracks like Don't Try Me. Banks also took a step further by founding the Up Top Movement record label, aiming to create a platform for fellow talents from his area to showcase their music. His contributions to the scene, including iconic tracks like Up Next, Malice Off Amali, and Club TT, have left an indelible mark on Toronto's drill culture. But it's not just Robin Banks. The Northside Jane and Up Top movement introduced the world to a roster of talented artists, each channeling the gritty energy of Chicago's drill scene into their Toronto neighborhoods. Their music, characterized by hard-hitting beats and raw narratives, provided a first-hand account of life in the city's most perilous areas. However, this creative expression often comes with its share of rivalries and street vendettas. Among the notable figures to emerge from this scene is the charismatic HOUDINI, who made waves as a teenager with a Chief Keef-inspired stunt that caught the attention of the drill icon himself. Collaborating with local rapper Burna Bands on 456, HOUDINI's talent was undeniable. The Tallop twins also left their mark on the up-top movement. Notable names like YG35, YS, GD, FB, and the brother duo 21, Neat and 22 Neat, rapping as Neat Gang, added their voices to the drill narrative. However, the brightest star to emerge from Jane and Finch's crucible is none other than PRESSA, the baby-faced maverick. PRESSA's journey from the streets of Toronto to mainstream music success is a testament to his determination. Escaping the violence, he relocated to Los Angeles to focus on his music career.
But my mother was just, I believe, probably 13. So they were living the hood life before me,
PRESSA's life is steeped in a dramatic family history, with his father, Mark Gardner, once a bank robber turned murderer in a chilling incident in 1996. Despite the odds, PRESSA transcended his tumultuous upbringing and carved a path to success, standing as one of the few to break free from Toronto's unforgiving streets and rise to musical stardom. As we explore this world of beats and bravado, we'll encounter stories of resilience, talent, and survival, all set against the backdrop of Toronto's vibrant drill scene. In the world of Toronto's drill music scene, aliases often hold significant weight, and they can trace their origins back to the streets that raised them. For PRESSA, his stage name was a nod to his father, aptly known as Prestige. Thus, PRESSA was born. His entrance into the rap game was marked by the 2015 posse cut titled Was Gang, which featured PRESSA, Robin Banks, GD, and FB. The track served as a heartfelt tribute to their fallen friend Wasi, explaining why members from these areas sometimes refer to themselves as Was Gang. Building on his early success, PRESSA and his brother ventured to establish their own record label, Blue Feather Records, setting the stage for his remarkable career in the rap game. Now let's shift our focus to another gritty Toronto neighborhood, Lawrence Heights, often colloquially referred to as the Jungle. Here you'll find the infamous Go Get Gang, also known as the GGGs. This fearsome crew is led by none other than the self-proclaimed Demon of Toronto, Top 5, and his story is nothing short of remarkable. Back in 2014, when he was just 16 years old, Top 5 garnered significant attention with tracks like Hall of Fame, alongside Robin Banks, and Shirt Off on Any Block. His penchant for going shirtless earned him the moniker Shirt Off Shorty, a fitting epithet for a young artist who would go on to become an emblem of his neighborhood's pride. Top 5's music made waves, and his 6 neighborhood anthems caught the ear of none other than Drake. Drake repeatedly shouted out Top 5 on his Instagram and even referenced him in hit songs like Grammys, catapulting Top 5 to a new level of fame. This affiliation with Drake led to Top 5 spending time with the global superstar. But beneath the surface, Top 5's reputation extended beyond music and into the streets, where he claimed to be Drake's shooter. Despite the playful banter, Top 5's involvement in serious crimes cannot be ignored. As we delve deeper into his story, we will explore the darker aspects of his life. Within the GGG's lineup, Top 5 had his brother, Foolish, and a close associate known as Flippa, with whom he collaborated on the 2019 track Drill Some More. Additionally, there's Top 5's right-hand man, 100. As we navigate the intricacies of Toronto's drill scene, we'll encounter a web of aliases, affiliations, and stories that paint a vivid portrait of life in the city's most notorious neighborhoods. In contrast to the previously mentioned crews, there are various other neighborhoods in Toronto that find themselves in opposition to the up-top rappers. While some refer to these groups as down-bottom, it's important to understand that Toronto's gang politics are intricate, featuring several fragmented factions with their own rivalries. To simplify, one of the key areas embroiled in street conflicts on this side of town is Regent Park, notorious for its reputation as one of Toronto's most dangerous neighborhoods. From the streets of Regent Park emerged Smoke Dogg, a rapper who gained traction in the rap game around 2014 to 15. One of his initial tracks, Still, was a collaboration with his friend Mo G, both of whom were part of the Halal Gang. This collective of Islamic Toronto street rappers, including members like Puffy Ellas, Safe, and Mustafa the Poet, was linked by Toronto police to Regent Park street gangs. The Halal Gang played a pivotal role in advancing the Toronto drill sound, with Smoke Dogg's 2018 hit Trap House propelling him onto the global stage. Aside from Regent Park, Rexdale stands as another area that has maintained a long-standing rivalry with Jane and Driftwood. Located just over 10 minutes away from Jane and Finch, Rexdale carries its own fearsome reputation, largely attributed to the Rexdale Crips, a group with a storied history stretching back decades. Within the modern landscape, Rexdale has birthed notable Toronto rappers, including Nav, Young Lava, Young Dubs, Illy, and Payback, and others. From the older generation of Rexdale Gs, figures like Sizzlack, also known as LV, who hailed from Jamestown, Rexdale, gained prominence. Sislak's track, Realist in the 6 Inches, fueled the tensions with Jane and Finch, where his adversaries were identified as IDSK. The complex web of Toronto's street politics also extends to the feud between Rexdale and Jane and Finch, with references to ongoing conflicts prevalent in the music produced by both sides. Falstaff 234 enters the narrative as another neighborhood with a long-standing rivalry, particularly against Lawrence Heights, known as Jungle. Notable rappers from Falstaff include 99, known for occasionally experimenting with UK beats, and Clutch, a name frequently mentioned in opposition songs. Finally, connections on the south side of Jane and Finch near Turf Grassway introduce us to the rapper Dovey, who brings a distinctive NBA Youngboy and Lil Baby vibe to Toronto's music scene. He, along with NHS JJ from South Jane, would become entangled in the ongoing beef towards the story's conclusion. While there are numerous other aspects and players within Toronto's complex tapestry, these are the individuals and neighborhoods central to our narrative. Now, with an understanding of who's involved, we can delve into the ongoing dynamics. Gangs have long been a presence in Toronto, and law enforcement has dedicated decades to cracking down on the criminal activities of these groups, particularly in neighborhoods such as Rexdale and Jane and Finch. Notable crackdowns include Project XX in 2005, targeting senior leadership in Rexdale gangs, and Project Cryptic in 2007, a significant operation against the Driftwood Crips. However, it was Project Marvel in 2011 that marked a pivotal moment in our story. Project Marvel aimed to disrupt organized crime gangs operating in Toronto's toughest neighborhoods, with a primary focus on the Jane and Finch-based street gang known as the Young Buck Killers, YBK. The indictment alleged that the YBK was involved in drug trafficking, illegal firearms distribution, and illicit cash transactions, operating ruthlessly across the city. Among those named in the indictment were several young offenders, including a 15-year-old PRESSA. However, it was not the teenagers that authorities were primarily targeting. The primary objective was to apprehend the senior leadership of YBK, with PRESSA's older brother, Kemar Gardner, known as Bundog, being the most sought after. Court documents portrayed Bundog as the leader of the Young Buck Killers, characterized as a violent gang involved in drug trafficking. Bundog's situation appeared grim as evidence included a photograph of him posing with a stack of $100 bills, spelling out the initials of the gang, YBK. During the trial, Bundog expressed remorse and a desire to set a better example for his younger brother PRESSA. However, the remorse did not sway the judge, who sentenced him to a substantial 10-year term for approximately 14 charges related to drugs, guns, and gang activity. PRESSA's life took a different turn during this period. He found himself incarcerated at the age of 15 for drug-related charges, serving a 14-month sentence in a young offenders institute. Meanwhile, Bundog's legal troubles continued, revealing that informants had allegedly informed the police that the teenage PRESSA was next in line to lead the gang after his older brother. However, PRESSA was not present during these events, as he was already locked up for selling drugs from his mother's house. In the years that followed, PRESSA navigated the treacherous streets of Toronto, evading trouble while his surroundings remained marred by violence and death. One of the most significant losses occurred on July 25, 2015, when his close friend Kwasi Skinny Peters, lost his life. Kwasi was on the run for a double murder that had taken place less than a month prior. The police eventually caught up with Kwasi outside a Toronto nightclub, leading to a fatal firefight that claimed his life. Kwasi's tragic death had a profound impact on PRESSA and his peers from the Uptop area. Kwasi's passing served as a catalyst for PRESSA's career in rap, leading him and fellow artists Robin Banks, GD, and FB to create the tribute song Was Gang. However, while these rappers began making strides in the music industry, the street beef persisted. In spite, the local music scene began to offer a glimmer of hope for individuals on both sides of the street conflict. In July 2015, Smoke Dogg released Trap House, a song that garnered mainstream attention and even received a remix by French Montana, debuting on Drake's OVO Sound Radio. Back up top, other rappers were also making strides in their musical careers. Robin Banks gained recognition with the 3 tracks that we've mentioned earlier. PRESSA continued to drop music, with tracks like Black Mask featuring Big Bills and GD, and later solo hits such as Dead Mihana and To Be Honest. However, in April 2016, a dark chapter unfolded in Toronto's ongoing street warfare, and PRESSA found himself entangled in a case that would haunt him for nearly a year and a half. This incident was not a typical shooting or confrontation. Instead, it involved such shocking and serious details that it stood out as one of the most twisted events in the city's history. The streets of Toronto plunged to new depths of violence in April 2016. Allegedly, members of the Young Buck Killers, a Toronto gang, had organized a party in a rented apartment. During the event, members of a rival gang, the Queen's Drive, attempted to crash the party, igniting an armed standoff in a hallway. Approximately 8 to 10 shots were fired during this confrontation. CCTV footage captured a scene reminiscent of an old Western movie. In the clip, a gunfight erupts in the hallway, with an alleged Young Buck killer member narrowly escaping a potentially fatal shot. He manages to take cover behind the closing elevator doors. The incident escalated further when the Young Buck killer members convened at a house in Swansea Mews. They reportedly decided to target 2 individuals who had allegedly informed the Queens Drive gang about their party. The next day, they summoned 2 17-year-old Queens Drive members to a property. What happened next was deeply disturbing and brutal, even by the standards of gang-related incidents. According to police reports, the victims were tied to chairs and subjected to severe beatings. During their ordeal, they were forced to play Russian roulette with a loaded handgun, and a shot was fired within the premises. This extreme violence attracted attention from multiple reports of suspicious activity, even prompting police visits. As the abuse continued, the victims were kidnapped and moved to various locations around the city to evade law enforcement. The situation escalated to an unthinkable degree, with reports suggesting that the victims were forced to engage in sexually explicit acts with each other, which were filmed. The kidnappers then contacted the victims' families, demanding a ransom for their release. The ransom demanded was reportedly $3,000 for the release of the victims, with a final payment of $7,000 required within a week, threatening to release the videos otherwise. Eventually, the ransom demands were met, and the victims were released, ultimately ending up in the hospital. One of the victims initially made a statement to the police, but later withdrew it. Despite this, the police gathered enough forensic evidence to build a case against the kidnappers, identifying several potential suspects. Notably, the mother, sister, and grandmother of one of the suspects were also identified as persons of interest, as they were allegedly present at a family home during part of the ordeal. On April 23rd, PRESSA was arrested on charges of kidnapping for ransom, unauthorized possession of a firearm, and assault with a weapon. After his arrest, PRESSA encountered rivals while in jail, resulting in a fight. Fortunately, he was not identified as the ringleader of the attack. The most severe punishments were reportedly administered by a 17-year-old named Ty Pistol Gordon and a 23-year-old named Lincoln Anthony Richards, both last seen in the Lawrence Heights jungle neighborhood. Remarkably, despite these serious charges, PRESSA was able to secure bail. During his 18 months of freedom while on bail, he wisely chose to focus intensely on his music career, providing himself with an opportunity to escape the cycle of violence that had plagued him and his family for years. After being released on bail for the kidnapping charges, PRESSA wasted no time and continued to release tracks. His music quickly gained attention from notable figures in the music industry, including The Weeknd and Meek Mill. The most significant victory for PRESSA came at the end of 2017 when he was cleared of all charges in the kidnapping case. A preliminary hearing determined that there wasn't enough evidence to identify PRESSA as the alleged gunman who had struck the victim in the head. The victim's attempt to identify PRESSA using a YouTube video of him rapping was insufficient to implicate him in the case. PRESSA's 2 associates who were initially picked up with him faced different fates. Lincoln Richards, who also went by the rap name Ransky Gleachy, was convicted and sentenced to 6 years. The alleged ringleader, Ty Pistol Gordon, received a 9-year sentence. With the charges dropped and the true ringleaders of the crime sentenced, PRESSA fulfilled his promise to leave the streets behind and pursue a legitimate career in the music industry. He relocated from Toronto to Los Angeles, even engaging in a romantic relationship with fellow rapper Coi Leray. However, he continued to reference and disrespect his rivals, whether deceased or still active, in his music, demonstrating the lingering ties to his street past. One notable rival he frequently disrespects in his songs is Sizzlack, a well-known figure from Rexdale. Around the same time PRESSA was arrested for the kidnapping charge, Sizzlack, also known as LV from Rexdale, was tragically murdered. He was shot along with 3 others during a shootout at a townhouse complex in the early hours of the morning. What made Sizzlack's death particularly eerie was its timing. It occurred only days after he released his biggest song, Realist in the Six, which included a music video with various scenes disrespecting his rivals. One of the last posts on Sizzlack's social media hinted at the potential danger he was in, stating, "Even shooters get shot." It's worth noting that Sizzlack had faced previous legal trouble and was charged in a double murder case involving Elliot T-Bone Hughes and Garth Nicholas Palmer. However, Sizzlack had not gone to trial for these charges and in the end pleaded guilty to aggravated assault, receiving a 2-year sentence. Some individuals from opposing groups have suggested that Sizzlack only avoided more severe charges due to cooperation with law enforcement, although there's no official evidence supporting this claim. Despite the controversy surrounding his legal situation, Sizzlack seemed to be a respected and feared figure within the community. This reputation led to ongoing disses from rappers like PRESSA and Top 5. In a unique and creative form of dissing, PRESSA was seen wearing a Louis Vuitton belt upside down, as another nickname for Sislak was LV. The upside-down LV was essentially a secret message signifying that LV had been defeated. This trend was adopted by other rappers like HOUDINI from the same neighborhood, further escalating the rivalry. Tragically, Sislak's murder was just one episode in a series of violent incidents that occurred in Toronto in the following years. In February 2017, news emerged of internal conflicts within Regent Park-based gangs, specifically involving the Halal Gang and Sikh Thugs, both from Regent Park. A series of killings began, and although it's challenging to establish a direct link between the violence and the music, it's evident that many aspiring rappers from these areas lost their lives. In March 2016, an emerging Toronto rapper named C-Sick, whose real name was Sayon Carrington, was murdered. Immediately following his funeral, another individual named Santana, or Julian Weeks, was also killed. Tyke, whose real name was Michael Teddy Gibson, and was another rapper from Regent Park, was identified as the shooter and went on the run. He was eventually caught in Aruba after allegedly committing another murder there. A few months later, another aspiring rapper from Regent Park named Ruck, or Marcus Gibson, was shot dead near Monroe Street and Dundas Street East. Ruck had previously been charged along with C-Sick in a notable Toronto murder case involving a restaurant shootout in 2014. While both Ruck and C-Sick had beaten the charges in that case, they were tragically murdered within 2 years. This period was marked by extreme danger for individuals involved in gang activities in Toronto. Even minor confrontations could lead to deadly consequences, emphasizing the urgency for up-and-coming rappers to use their music as an escape from these dire circumstances. Tragically, some individuals in this story came incredibly close to escaping the streets through music before facing some of the most heartbreaking outcomes imaginable. While PRESSA toured around Europe, Robin Banks was making significant progress with his music career as part of the Up-Top Records movement. His earlier tracks like Was Gang and Up Next were becoming local classics, and his catchphrase TT or two-turn was gaining popularity in the city. However, behind the scenes, not everything was smooth. In January 2017, someone was shot and killed after a Robin Banks music video shoot. Additionally, there were allegations that Robin Banks owed a $10,000 debt to someone in the city, with social media posts suggesting that he had been hounded for the money for weeks. While it's unclear if these incidents were connected to what happened next, on April 4th, 2017, Robin Banks was caught off guard when gunfire erupted outside the Cameo Hookah Lounge.
Gunfire breaking out in front of a packed nightclub. The chaotic scene left 3 people shot, sending a man in his 20s to hospital with life-threatening injuries. 2 others, a man and a woman, rushed to hospital with serious injuries. Police are investigating whether they were targeted or just victims of being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
The chaotic scene left 3 people, including Robin Banks, shot. Robin Banks was shot 14 times, with 1 bullet in the neck and 9 in his legs. Initial reports erroneously stated that he had died, but in reality, he had been rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Fortunately, he survived the shooting but was left paralyzed and confined to a wheelchair. The tragedy led to Robin Banks's family launching a crowdfunding campaign on YouCaring to raise $300,000 to cover his medical expenses. Despite tasteless taunts from rivals, Robin Banks's injuries were severe, and his recovery was no easy feat. Following the shooting, an image circulated online claiming to show the loan shark who had been after Robin Banks, but its authenticity was unclear. What is confirmed is that the police detained 2 suspects for questioning immediately after the shooting, but had to release them due to a lack of evidence. Later, they issued a warrant for 2 individuals, Rushawn Anderson and Nicholas Roden, for attempted murder. Rushawn Anderson turned himself in soon after, while Nicholas Roden was arrested in July 2017. In August 2020, Nicholas Roden received a life sentence, and Rushawn Anderson was sentenced to 16 years, both for attempted murder. The prosecution argued that both deserved life sentences due to the gravity of the acts committed against Robin Banks, which were tantamount to murder. Robin Banks continued to push the Up-Top movement, oversaw the release of the Up-Top Northside Jane mixtape, and remained an inspiring figure in the Toronto rap scene. His story serves as a testament to resilience and determination in the face of adversity, inspiring the next generation of Toronto rappers. Following the 2017 apprehension of Robin Banks, Toronto's streets continued to witness a series of unfortunate events. Among the emerging artists from Rexdale, there was Young Dubs, who was gaining prominence in the rap industry. His musical journey commenced commenced as early as 2012 with the release of his debut track, The Real. Young Dub steadily climbed the ranks within the Toronto rap scene, ultimately aligning himself with the OVO circle and collaborating with the renowned producer 40, who has strong ties to Drake. One such collaboration resulted in the recording of a track titled Gang at the studio. However, tragically, Young Dubs never had the opportunity to see the song's official release. On May 12, 2017, he met a devastating fate, losing his life due to a gunshot wound to the head in Brampton. The next incident that deeply impacted the streets of Toronto was the shooting of Foolish. Real name was Saeed Ali. He was Top 5's brother and fell victim to a shooting in the parking lot of a drugstore on July 31st, 2017, just minutes away from the Lawrence Heights neighborhood where Top 5 resided. Foolish, who appeared jovial on social media, remained an enigma regarding his involvement in street life. It remains uncertain whether the bullet was intended for Top 5 himself, but regardless of the circumstances, Foolish's untimely demise had a profound effect on Top 5's life and trajectory.
It's just one problem. He's also on the run, wanted for murder.
On June 30th, 2018, a tragic incident unfolded in front of the downtown nightclub named Cube. Smoke Dogg engaged in a dispute with 21 Neat, a member of the Driftwood community. This altercation escalated to the point where firearms were drawn, resulting in the fatal shooting of Smoke Dogg, as well as his manager. Smoke Dogg succumbed to a gunshot wound to the head, and the distressing images of his lifeless body circulated widely on social media platforms. The perpetrator, 21 Neat, along with a 16-year-old accomplice, fled the scene in a black-tinted SUV, leading to a prolonged period of evasive action. Approximately a year later, 21 Neat was eventually apprehended in British Columbia, but his juvenile accomplice remained elusive. Following the tragic shooting, the media quickly identified Smoke Dogg, an up-and-coming rapper, as the victim.
He was just like my favorite Toronto rapper, literally of anyone. He was my favorite, and I just think he was 21 years old. Like, there's no way this should have happened.
Julian was found by 51 division officers lying on the ground, clinging to life in a large pool of blood in the parking lot of the Shell gas station located at Parliament Street and Richmond Street.
Police found the body of 29-year-old Sion Carrington last Wednesday. He died later in hospital.
City News has confirmed the victim to be Sion Carrington, seen here in this exclusive video from City News in June 2015. Tributes pouring in today for DeMargio Jenkins, the 21-year-old musician also known as Houdini, was shot and killed at King and Blue Jays Way Tuesday afternoon.
We have emphasized this point before, and we must reiterate that there is nothing inherently appealing or glamorous about the gang lifestyle. While some may find allure in the music, style, culture, and slang originating from the roughest and most challenging streets worldwide, the stark reality of life within these gangs is characterized by death, suffering, loss, injury, and squandered opportunities. It is heartbreaking to contemplate how different the course of events could have been had both sides of this feud not experienced such a significant loss of individuals with immense potential. Smoke Dogg had the potential to become one of the most prominent and respected rappers to emerge from his city. Houdini exhibited immense promise, evident in his talent and the songs he released, indicating a bright future. However, when deeply entrenched in the perilous world of the streets, no amount of talent or resilience can guarantee safety. In such circumstances, the wisest course of action is to distance oneself as far as possible from the very environment that poses the greatest threat. In truth, there are no true victories in the streets. When individuals opt for street life over pursuing a more positive path for themselves and their communities, they invariably encounter setbacks. In many ways, one of the most compelling and impactful stories within this narrative is that of Robin Banks. Despite being shot and paralyzed due to his affiliations with the streets, he channeled his focus into his passions, creating music, supporting his community, releasing projects, managing a label, and most importantly, inspiring the next generation to aim higher and avoid the devastating consequences that street life can entail. Few possess the resilience required to endure what Robin Banks experienced and continue to forge ahead. Therefore, if Robin Banks can emerge from one of the harshest ordeals imaginable and continue to serve as a positive role model for the city, even after enduring one of life's most challenging losses, there is no excuse for the next generation of teenagers hailing from areas like Driftwood. They have the potential for a brighter future with their physical and mental well-being intact, an entire lifetime ahead of them, and the opportunity to surpass the achievements of those who came before them.